Good evening, everyone. Um, Thank you for joining me at another Anglify webinar. We're just going to wait because we're a little bit early. So we're just going to start in a couple of minutes. So you guys can just get comfortable. Let me get a few things ready on my computer. Please say hello. Okay, so hello, Sylvie. Thank you for coming. Great to see you here. Is it your first time at a webinar, Sylvie? Hello, Nicole. Welcome. Thanks for coming. It's great to see some messages coming in. Hello, Ellen. And Sylvie's second time. Great to see you, Ellen. Angelique, welcome. Hello, L'Atelier. Welcome with your long name. Okay, great to see some people here. So thanks a lot for coming. I'm really excited about the Easter webinar. It's going to be great. Before we get started, just while we are getting ready and while people are still arriving, let's have a little discussion about what is your favorite celebration or what is your favorite festival? So personally, I love Halloween. It's a great celebration, and it's actually has Celtic Irish roots. So it's really important to us in Ireland. A lot of people associate Halloween more with the United States, but Halloween is actually an old Celtic celebration called Samhain. So that's certainly one of my favorites. But I also love Easter. Easter is great. And of course, St. Patrick's Day. L'Atelier says Christmas. Christmas, of course. Christmas, it's a great one. Yes. Yes, Ellen. Are you a fan of Halloween too, Ellen? And welcome, Maxime. Thank you very much for coming. Great to see you. So please, if you have just joined, sign in, say hello. We are just talking about our favorite celebrations, our favorite festivals. Welcome, Florence. Great to see you. Thank you for coming. Yes, Christmas. Christmas is a good one. Hello, Sonia. Thank you for coming. Great to see you. Ellen prefers Christmas too. Yes, Halloween can be a little scary. It's true, especially for the children, but that's one of the reasons why I like it. And next Halloween, it's a long way in the future, but we will do an Anglify webinar all about Halloween. Maxime likes Yule. Yeah, Yule. In English, usually we just call it Christmas, Christmas time. We do use Yule, but it's a very old style way of saying it. So yeah, Christmas seems to be the most popular. Nobody voting for Easter as their favorite celebration? No, Easter is not the number one. Okay. Florence is going for Halloween too. Good. And Ellen likes Easter for the chocolate. Yes. Easter songs are less famous. Yes. I don't know any Easter songs. So I don't know if there are any Easter songs. That's an interesting one, L'Atelier. Do you know any Easter songs? It's true, there are a lot of great Christmas songs. Yeah, maybe there aren't any Easter songs. We need to write one. Maxime doesn't know Easter enough. Okay, well, Maxime, you came to the right place because tonight we are going to learn all about Easter. Welcome, Martine. Thank you for coming. So yeah, Easter songs. I don't think are really part of the tradition, but maybe we should change that. Maybe in the future there should be some Easter strong songs. Hello, Emily. Great to see you. Thank you for coming. I know it's a busy evening for people because sometimes you are preparing dinner and things like that, and everybody's getting ready for the Easter feast. Has anybody done any advanced preparation for Easter? Um, so certainly for Christmas, you have to do a lot of cooking in advance and preparing in advance. But for for Easter, maybe not as much. But here in my house, we have been preparing for Easter just about 2 weeks ago. My wife prepared a lot of beetroot because she's originally from Slovakia and they eat a lot of beetroot at Christmas. So I'm looking forward to eating that at the weekend. Okay, so I'm going to just get my screen share going. No, not that one. Hmm. Yes, it's great. I see people saying hello to one another. Ellen said hello to Emily. Emily said hello to her. So maybe you guys know each other from going to some of the Anglify cours collectif. That's really nice. So it's really good to go to some of those and get to know each other a little bit better and feel a little bit more like a community. And even like Ellen no longer studies with me each week, but we still have good memories and we still keep in contact. So the nice thing about the webinar is we're able to keep in contact even maybe after you have finished your studies with Anglify. But as usual, I want to say that tonight's webinar is brought to you by Anglify. And for those of you not familiar, Anglify provide one-to-one online language tuition, language classes, and it's a great platform for learning English or even some other languages, like there are Italian and Spanish and Portuguese teachers too. Welcome, Isabel. Thank you for joining us. So tonight's webinar is all about Easter origins, traditions, and explanations. And there is a little Easter egg here. So if you want more information about maybe a free meeting with Anglify, just contact them about that. So yes, I am your coach, Patrick, and my email address is there. So if after the webinar, anyone has any questions about anything that appeared on the webinar or comments, please just send me an email anytime. I would be happy to read them. Also, don't forget you can leave comments under the video. So we're going to look at a few things here, the origins or the roots of Easter and the celebration, some of the symbols, Easter around the world, and some essential vocabulary. Thank you for your kind words, Ellen. So my first question tonight is, when is Easter? When is Easter? Okay. Seems pretty simple, right? When is Easter? Yeah, I think everybody is getting ready for Easter. Surely that is a very easy question. Okay, but Ellen is right. It's a little bit more complicated. Okay, so Florence and Emily say it's in April. Ellen says it's 60 days after. Yes, those are good answers, because when is Easter is not a simple question. Okay. If we ask, when is St. Patrick's Day? That's easy, the 17th of March. When is Christmas Day? That's easy, it's the 25th of December. When is Easter? That's more difficult, because Easter is a movable feast, okay? A movable feast. Let me write that for you. Okay, so Easter is a movable feast, which means that it moves. When it occurs, changes from year to year. Okay, so Ellen said it's 60 days after I don't remember what. Okay, there are two things that come before Easter. Okay, the first thing lasts 40 days. Okay, and is called Lent. Okay, so Easter Sunday is 40 days after Lent. Okay, 40 days after Lent. Now, what is Lent? Does anybody have any idea what some people do before Easter? What is Lent? No, that's okay, Ellen. You're doing well. You were correct. It was some days after a certain event because Easter is the last part. Lent comes before that, and before that we have another little celebration. So you are kind of correct. Okay, Ellen says we eat crepe. Yes, yes. At the start, so just before Lent starts, you might eat crepe. You're a little confused. Well, you are correct. Okay, Latelier says they don't eat or eat just a little. Perfect. Okay, so what is the verb? Does anybody know the verb that we use when you say you don't eat? Okay, Emily says jeûne. Okay, I'm not sure. Maybe in French. In English, we have the verb to fast. So to fast means to eat or to restrict your eating. Okay, to fast. So everybody knows the adjective fast. For example, Usain Bolt is a fast runner. Or sometimes my students say, I went to England or I went to Ireland or America and the people spoke English very fast. Okay, but we have a verb to fast, and it means to abstain from all or some food or drink for a period of time. So some people fast for 40 days during Lent. So we have a phrasal verb to give up. To give up is an informal way to say quit. And when I was a child in school, the teachers used to ask us, are you giving up anything for Lent? And we used to say, yes, I am giving up chocolate, or I am giving up popcorn, or I am giving up biscuits. So we used to do a little fast during Lent. Has anybody here ever fasted for Lent? Has anybody ever restricted what they eat for Lent? I have. I have given up chocolate or sweets. Ellen says you have to give up just one thing. You know, Helen, when I was a child, I didn't want to give up anything, but the teachers and sometimes my parents told me, you have to give up one thing. Okay. So we chose one thing, but maybe some people give up a lot of things. Some people traditionally give up all meat. So in some countries, they don't eat any meat or fish for Lent. For example, in Ethiopia and some other Orthodox Christian countries, people don't eat any meat for Lent. Maxime says, no, I have not given up anything for Lent. Okay, yes. I think perhaps it's not common in France. Today in Ireland, it's not common either. So Ellen says, most of the time it was the thing that you preferred. Yes, some kind of treat. But perhaps, Ellen, that would be a good trick. You could say, I will give up popcorn, but maybe you don't like popcorn. It could be a good trick. Okay, Florence says, we have to give up just one day, the Friday before Easter. Yes, a lot of people do not eat meet the Friday before Easter. Yes, that's true today. Yes, good. Great. Thank you for all the contributions. It's great to hear from you, asking questions, things like that. Yes, it's easier if it's just for one day. I also want to ask, is fasting only in the Christian tradition, or do other traditions fast? What do you think? While you're thinking about that, I also want to point out the English word breakfast. Think about it. Break, fast. So, in a way, we all fast at night because we go to sleep at maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and we sleep for 8, 9 hours. Maybe we don't eat a little bit before we go to bed and we eat a little bit after. So maybe we spend 10, 12, 14 hours where we do not eat. So it's a kind of mini fast. And then in the morning, your first meal is called your break fast. And that's where we got the modern word breakfast. As you know, here at the webinars, I am fascinated by etymology and the origins of words. So breakfast comes from break fast. Maxime said it exists in many traditions, and Latelier said all religions do. Yes, exactly. You can see fasting in Islam with Ramadan. You can see fasting in Judaism, in Buddhism, Hinduism. So the fasting is a big part of the human tradition. Okay. Yes, Ellen is a big fan of etymology too. I'm glad to hear it. And I know that Latelier is also a fan of etymology. So me too. It can help your vocabulary. It can help your learning by thinking about the origins of words. Okay, great. Ellen said that we eat crepe. Okay, sometimes in English we say pancakes. Crepe is a particular kind of pancakes. Okay. Latelier said that she ordered her books. Great. Latelier, please tell me which books you ordered. I'm really interested and I'm really happy to hear that. Okay. So Ellen said that you eat crepe. Yes, you can say crepe in English. Most people speaking English understand the word crepe, meaning a particular style of pancake. Usually we say pancake, but if you want that classic Breton or Northern France style, you can say crepe. And you will see on menus in Ireland, in the UK, in Australia, you will see the French word crepe, because it's that particular style. In my opinion, crepes are the best pancakes. So, yes, in France, a lot of people eat crepes or pancakes just before Lent. And in fact, Carnival is a celebration just before Lent. Okay. Also, Mardi Gras. What does Mardi Gras mean in English? Can anybody tell me? You know that I am not good at French. What does Mardi Gras mean in English? I hope my pronunciation is okay. Mardi. Okay, Latelier says Fat Tuesday. Yes, you don't need to put a question mark because you are French, you know. So Mardi is Tuesday. Don't confuse it with Thursday. Okay, remember we saw Thursday is the fourth day of the week, named after the god Thor. Yeah, Fat Tuesday, Greasy Tuesday. Yes, you could translate it in different ways. But again, we just use the French Mardi Gras. Okay. So if you think about it, fat and grease and the crepes, we eat these things because we are finishing everything in our house before Lent, before the fasting. So If you have a lot of nice things in your house, in your fridge, before you start to fast, you want to eat all of them. And the good thing about um, Carnival and Mardi Gras is that you can eat anything, you can really celebrate. So Ellen said, yes, you can wear costumes. I know that's popular in the south of France, in Italy, in Switzerland, and of course in Brazil. It's the biggest celebration, yes. So again, Carnival comes from the word carne, meaning meat, okay, in Latin-based languages. So carnival, it's a chance to eat the last of the meat. Carnival means say goodbye to meat, okay? Mardi Gras and eating crepes or eating pancakes, it's a chance to eat everything in your fridge, one last chance. The great thing about pancakes and crepes is they taste amazing with anything. You can put anything on top. My favorite topping is butter, sugar, and lemon juice. This is a classic in Ireland. Um, what are some of your favorite toppings, or what can you eat with crepes or pancakes? So, personally, I like the classic butter, sugar, and lemon. And it needs to be in that order: first the butter, then the sugar, and then a squeeze of lemon juice. Florence is going for the same. Good. Is that popular in France, Florence? Because that's the classic in Ireland: butter, sugar, and lemon. Okay. Any other favorite toppings? The good thing about crepes is you can put anything. Chocolate and walnuts. Oh yes, that is good. Lemon juice with chocolate. Okay, strange combination, Ellen. But that's for next year. Chestnut cream. Excellent, Emily. I love that. That in my mind, those delicious chestnut creams. It's a classic French thing, so that's a good one. Hello, Thais. Berry jam. Oh yeah, I love jam, especially strawberry jam on my pancakes. Sonia says honey. Honey, excellent choice. I love honey. Chocolate and whipped cream. Okay, Isabel, you are going crazy. Sylvie says sugar and syrup derab. Okay, in English we say maple syrup. Maple syrup. Oh, yes. I love maple syrup. I lived in Canada and I ate a lot of Canadian maple syrup. It's so good. Okay. So, okay. For you, Ellen, blackberry jam. Great choice. Great choice. Okay. Wow. Now I want to eat pancakes. Okay. So we are going to move on to pancakes. Okay. Um, Stay with me here because we are not going to talk too much about religion, but I just want to show you that you can use any story um, to think about some of the vocabulary. So here I just took some interesting verbs and verb phrases to think about on the Bible story about Easter, because I think a lot of people know the story or are familiar with the story. And so we have some verbs. For example, the verb to betray. Jesus was betrayed by Jesus was betrayed by Judas. Okay, so here you can practice. You can practice some vocabulary. The verb to betray. You can also practice your passive voice. Jesus was betrayed by Judas. By Judas. Jesus was betrayed by Judas. Next, we have to be put on trial. Jesus was put on trial by the Romans. Okay, so yes, after he was betrayed came the trial with the Romans. Then Jesus was crucified. But the important thing about Easter happened 3 days later when Jesus rose from the dead. So to rise means to be lifted up. So just like we have sunrise in the morning when the sun comes up over the horizon, we call this sunrise. So rise, it's an irregular verb. In the past simple, rose, and in the past participle, risen. Okay, good. But of course, Easter did not start with the Bible or start with Christianity. Easter has older roots. There was a celebration of Easter even before the time of Jesus. And if you think about the name, so in French, I believe you call it Pâques, and in a lot of Latin-based languages, you have Pascha or Pâques or things like that. But in English, we call it Easter. And where does this come from? So as we saw last week, English and the Anglo-Saxons were Germanic people. And in the Germanic tradition, in the present-day Germany and Central Europe, you had a goddess called Osthera or Eostra. Okay, and that is where we get the English name Easter. So this goddess was the goddess of fertility, new life, and spring. And Easter really is a celebration of spring. It's a celebration of the new life coming out of the winter. So that's one of the reasons why we celebrate Easter today. It's a spring festival. So a little bit of vocabulary related to spring. Okay, so we have things like birth. Okay, so Easter is a celebration of birth. So we can say to be born. For example, I was born in Dublin. I was born in Paris. The noun birth, birth. Again, it has that TH sound at the end, so we pronounce birth, birth. So spring is a time for birth. Easter is a celebration of birth. So you can see a lot of the beautiful animals now, the little birds, you can hear them. Here, where I am at the moment, I can hear a lot of frogs, okay, because just a few weeks ago, they were just tadpoles, and now there are a lot of frogs. So we have birth as the noun. Can also be a verb sometimes, but usually a noun, birth. We also have blossoms. So blossoms, it's another word for flowers. So on the trees at the moment, you can see the blossoms, okay? So it's the flower part of the tree, or when you have a flower, the beautiful part that opens is the blossom, okay? The blossom. So a lot of people know about Japan. They have a great celebration for the cherry blossoms, the beautiful pink flowers appearing on the trees. In your region, can you see cherry blossoms at the moment? Yes, exactly. Ellen said the Japan cherry trees are blossoming at the moment. Do you have any cherry trees where you live? Yes, yes. L'Atelier says it's the end. Exactly. It's the same here in Austria. Last week, I think, was the peak. Maxime agrees it's the end. Yes. So we are coming to the end of the cherry blossom season. Thais mentioned the apple trees. Yes, the beautiful apple blossoms. I'm lucky here to live near an orchard, and there are a lot of apple trees, and exactly, they're just blossoming now. Yes, yes, it's fantastic. Okay, the next word we have is life. Life. Okay, so again, spring, it's a celebration of life. There's birth and new life. Great. So we can see that in the animals and the trees. Emily mentioned peach trees. Yes, in Ireland, we don't have a lot of peach trees because I think we don't have enough sun, but you will see a lot of blossoms on the cherry trees, plum trees, and apple trees. But in France, I think you have a lot of beautiful peach trees. So I put the word life there just to be careful with the pronunciation. So we can use the f sound, life, life. So it's our noun. Don't mix it up with the verb to live, to live. I live in Ireland. My life, live life. So here, spring is a celebration of life. Yes, peach trees. Okay, I will look at some pictures of peach tree blossoms because they must be beautiful. Yeah. I also put the word warm um, because a nice thing about spring is the cold weather is basically finished, but it's not too hot because I know in some parts, especially some parts of France, the south of France, it can be very hot in summer. So spring, it's usually nice and pleasant. It's nice and warm, not too hot, not too cold. But it's not all good news. Unfortunately, with the warm weather and the new life and the blossoms, there is a lot of pollen. And pollen is great. It's good for the bees and it's good for us. But a lot of people, if there's pollen in the air, can have a reaction to the pollen. So when you have a reaction to the pollen, that causes you to sneeze, or gives you a runny nose, or gives you irritated eyes, we call this hay fever. Hay fever. So you can say, I have hay fever. Spring is difficult because of all the pollen. And sometimes in the newspaper or on the radio, they will talk about the pollen count. Exactly, Isabel. It's an allergy. It's an allergy. Okay. Great. Latelier said, yes, it's usually warm, but yeah, it can change. I know it's been cold sometimes. Okay. Um, Isabel said, yes, hay fever, it's a kind of allergy. Sylvain, welcome, no problem. You are always welcome. Um, Florence says, I have hay fever. Oh no, I'm sorry, Florence. I say, what a pity, because spring sometimes is difficult for people who have hay fever. Good question from Ellen. What does hay mean? Hay is when you cut the grass to make food for horses or cows. This is called hay. Okay, so hay fever, I think originally a long time ago, people thought that it came from cutting the grass, and that does contribute to the pollen in the air. But we know that there is pollen even when you don't cut the grass from the trees and flowers. But hay is cut grass to feed to animals. Rhume des foin. Yes, I perhaps. Okay, so that's how you say it in French. Rhume des foin. Okay. Okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you. Latelier says, me too. I have hay fever, but I have good treatment now. Exactly. There's some really good treatment available for hay fever. Good luck to all the people with hay fever. I'm sorry. Spring can be difficult. Now we are going to move to traditions around the world. But before we look at some traditions around the world, I want you to tell me, how do you celebrate Easter where you live? What do you do for Easter in your region? Okay, maybe in different parts of France it's different. You might think it's classic, but maybe I don't know about it. So please tell me about what you do or what you plan to do for your Easter celebration. Okay, Ellen says we hide chocolate in the garden. Okay, yes. Eggs hunt, yes. Chocolates. Yeah, okay, okay. So that's the classic. Yeah, I think we would call this an Easter egg hunt. So an Easter egg hunt, like Atelier said. So to hunt, it's when you are trying sometimes to catch an animal, okay, and maybe with a gun or a bow and arrow, people hunt for animals. But at Easter, especially children hunt for chocolates or Easter eggs. Okay. Isabel agrees, a nice meal and then go egg hunting. Okay. Children search for the chocolate and share it with the family. Oh, that's great. The children share. You have very good children because sometimes they don't want to share the chocolate. Great. Okay, good. Yes, I know about that tradition, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But now I want to show you some photographs of little different Easter traditions around the world. So I want you to tell me, where do you think this is and what are they doing? So this is a country. Okay. Maxime says Russia. You are very close, Maxime. It's close, but not quite Russia. Okay. Florence says a good meal. Yes, you have to have a good meal. Ellen and Florence said Poland. No, it's not Poland. We will look at Poland later. This is not Poland. Go a little bit north. Go north of Poland. Yeah, Poland. Sylvan says Slovenia. No, too far south, so we need to go north. But you have the right first letter. Slavic country. No, you guys are close, but you are not right. So this is Sweden. Sweden. So in Sweden and also in Finland, they have a tradition that is a little bit like trick or treat at Halloween, where the children do not hunt for eggs in their own gardens or their own houses, but in fact, they put on costumes, sometimes scary costumes like traditional witches, and they knock on the neighbors' doors and ask for chocolate. So in Sweden and Finland, it's a little bit like Halloween in some other countries, where the children go around from house to house collecting treats, collecting chocolate. Okay. Next, we have another Easter tradition. Can anybody tell me, you might not guess exactly where this is, but where do you think it might be? And what are they doing and why? So this is a big Easter celebration, big Easter. In north of France? Okay, do they do that in the north of France? Maybe. Isabel says Australia. No, it's not Australia. It is a beautiful, sunny and hot place, but it's not Australia. Maxime says Japan. Okay. Okay, it seems that in Berck, in the north of France, and in Belgium, maybe people do this, but remember, this is at Easter. Okay, so it's at Easter. Berck-sur-Mer. Okay, I didn't know about that. It's a popular place. So we have the verb to fly a kite. Okay, so they are flying kites. And this is in Bermuda, in the Caribbean. Okay, so in Bermuda and some other Caribbean islands at Easter, a lot of people go to the beach and fly kites. Why do you think they fly kites at Easter? What's the connection between Easter and flying kites? It's a little bit funny. Yes, it's far from the north of Europe, Bermuda. So you can see the weather is very nice to go out in April to fly kites. What's the connection between flying kites and Easter, do you think? No ideas? It's a difficult question. The connection, it's quite funny. The wind, Latelia, you are correct. You are correct. They want to get close to Jesus or get close to heaven, get close to God. So they are sending a message, a nice, colorful message to heaven. Yes, it's beautiful. Catherine said, you were kidding, but you are correct. Okay. You're absolutely correct. So, yeah, Catherine said, like birds, they are kites. They are works of art, and it's a message to heaven, a message to Jesus. Okay, next picture. Can anybody tell me where they think this is and what's happening? Maxime is correct. It's the USA, but it's not every part of the USA. It looks like Carnival, Helen, but this is for Easter. In this city, they celebrate Carnival, they celebrate Mardi Gras, but they really celebrate Easter too. So, exactly, this is Louisiana, New Orleans. Exactly. Okay. So, in English, we pronounce it New Orleans. I know in French a little different. You say Orléans. We say New Orleans, Louisiana. It's a fascinating city. I have never visited it, but I would love to because there's a real mix of French, English, African cultures all coming together. It's absolutely fascinating. And it is the home of jazz. So they have an Easter parade. Some people say they just love celebrating, they love parties. So that's why they celebrate Carnival and they celebrate Easter. Yeah, it would be a great place. Okay, so then Louisiana in the USA. Fantastic. Okay, next. What is happening here? Where can it be? Any ideas? Alain says the biggest crepe in the world. Florence says in France. You are correct, Florence. It's in France. Emily says in South America. No, it's in France. Yes, some people say, is it a crepe? Is it fondue? Isabel is correct. It's an omelette. So it's not a crepe. It looks a little bit like a crepe. It looks like it could be fondue, but it's actually an omelette. It's not cheese. So, yes, France, of course, but not every part of France. Do they do this in Lyon, Sylvain? Do they make a huge omelette? So this is in a particular part of France. Thais says Brittany. Maybe they do it in Brittany, but this particular one is different. It's in a village called Oh. Oh, they do it in Lyon, Sylvain? Okay. So maybe they do it in lots of different parts of France. Okay. So maybe they do it in Brittany and Lyon as well. But this particular one is from the village of Oh in Gironde. Okay. So a little bit close to Bordeaux. And Maxime said a lot of eggs. Yes, they use 1,500 eggs. 1,500 eggs. You can read this number as 1,500 or 1,500. So 1,500 eggs. Would you like to eat that omelet? Of course, it's shared. Everybody in the town gets a little bit of the omelet. Not one person eats it. So the story, Latelia says, nope, it doesn't look delicious. So the story of this omelet is that Napoleon, in English we say Napoleon, was traveling through this village with his soldiers, and they served him an omelet, and he said, wow, that is fantastic. I want you to make an omelet for all of my soldiers. So they had to cook a huge omelet, and that's how the tradition started. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's the story. Helen wants to eat some of it, so yeah. I would like to try some too. Next picture. Okay, I have two pictures here because this is a really interesting one. Okay, any ideas where this? Maxime says South America. Yeah, I think they might do it in some parts of South America, but the most famous example is not South America or Mexico. It's a different place. It does have a Spanish connection, but it's not in the Americas. And so here it's really interesting because they do a reenactment of the crucifixion. And you can see they use real hammers and real nails. So he has a hammer and a nail. So he's going to hit the nail into the man's hand and into the wood. So it's a reenactment, but the actor, he is really in pain. Ellen says, I hope it's fake nails. No, they use real nails. Yeah, it's a little bit crazy. So no, not in Italy. Maybe I think in Italy, they are not so crazy to use real nails. So this is in the Philippines. Yes, real nails in the hands. I'm not sure. I think the feet too. I'm not sure. And you can see some pictures. I didn't show them, but with the crown of thorns. They put a crown of thorns on the head. Sometimes there is blood. Yes, exactly. So we can say, understand the face of the man yelling. We can say, no wonder he is yelling. We have no wonder he is yelling. Yes, it's very extreme. Okay, but it's interesting. It's a powerful tradition. That's enough about that. Let's move on to something different, something more fun. This looks like a lot of fun. So what do you think is happening here? And where do you think it might be? So you can see it's beautiful and sunny, but it's not as far away as Bermuda, but it is somewhere to the south. What is happening here? So in this place, Spain, Letelier says no. Emily says Italy, you are getting closer. Ellen says they break pottery, exactly. So they throw some big pots from balconies, and you can see in the streets there are lots of smashed pots. Florence said Greece, exactly. Ellen agrees. Are they Greek? Yes, it is. In fact, Corfu in Greece. And for Easter, the people gather in the town square, and some people throw pots from the roofs and the balconies, and they smash in the town square. So interesting. It looks like a lot of fun. So that's the island of Corfu in Greece, to see that one. Okay, what is inside the pottery, Ellen? It's empty, just big pots, simple pots. Some of them are painted, some of them are not, and they are empty. Okay. Okay, next we have this. Would anybody like to eat this? What does it look like? Where do you think this food comes from? It's a kind of fruitcake. Yes, it is a kind of fruitcake. Sylvie says a kind of pudding. Yeah, kind of. It's not sweet, Sylvie. It's, well, I don't know. Maybe it's a little sweet. Nicole says UK, and Latelia says England. It doesn't look nice. Yeah, Ellen says with butter. It's strange. There's something strange about it. In fact, it's not butter, Ellen, but it is cheese. Emily says Germany. Yes, it looks quite like it's from the UK, and in a way, it has a connection. Sylvan said, not France, because it doesn't look good. It doesn't look delicious. It has a UK connection, but in fact, it is from Jamaica. And this is called Jamaican Easter bun. And it's a mix of some Caribbean spices and some English cake traditions mixed together to make this Jamaican Easter bun. They call it a bun, but it's more like a cake. And so you have some fruit, like Ellen mentioned, but also a lot of spice, like ginger, and a lot of what we call molasses. Molasses, it's when you make sugar and you grow sugar cane and you don't process it. So it's quite sweet, but it's not refined sugar, and that gives it a dark color. So you have ginger, molasses, dried fruit, all mixed together, and they eat it with cheese. Okay. Okay. So Ellen said she likes the sound of that. She would like to eat it, but I think most of you French people say, no, I am not going to eat cheese and spiced cake. Maybe you can run fast with it. Yes, I think Usain Bolt eats that every Easter, so it has to have a good effect. So is from Jamaica. Okay, the Easter spiced Easter bun. It looks like a cake, but they call it Easter bun, and they eat it with cheese usually. Okay, next we have this tradition. Um, yeah, I think it's heavy. It's heavy. But next we have this one, and this is an interesting one. So you mentioned this country earlier. So maybe you can say where it is now. And basically, Martin is correct. It is Poland. And Poland on Easter Monday, they sometimes call it Wet Monday. And you can throw water and have a huge water fight. So traditionally, it was men who threw water at women, and they do this in Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. But today, especially in Poland, it is more equal, and all people can throw water. There is just a huge water fight. So, yes, it's better if the weather is hot. I think, like we said, usually it's starting to get a little bit warm or hot at Easter time. So it's a good time to do this. Also, remember that we associate spring with cleaning. Sometimes we talk about spring cleaning. So this is a good way to get your spring started. So that's in Poland. This one is very interesting. Does anybody have any idea where these things come from or what they are? Some people might say, oh, they are Easter bunnies, but these are not bunnies. You can see they look a little bit different to bunnies. So we mentioned this country earlier. And in fact, the reason why in this country, yeah, they look like foxes, but they are not foxes. Latelier says Australia. You are correct. You are correct, Latelier. This is in Australia, and these are called Easter bilbies. Yeah, it looks a little bit like a, but in fact, it's an animal called a. Here is a picture of a bilby, and this is a native Australian animal. So it's a marsupial, just like a kangaroo or a koala, but it's a native Australian animal. So how do people in Australia, of course, I will write it, yes. How do people in Australia feel about bunnies and rabbits in Australia and in New Zealand? Florence mentioned. Are rabbits popular? No, rabbits are not popular. So in Australia and New Zealand, they do not like rabbits because the rabbits cause a lot of problems for the native animals. The rabbits are invasive. Exactly, they are invaders. So they are what we call an invasive species. And so people said, no, those Easter bunnies, they are not cute. We don't want bunnies in Australia. We will have Easter bees. Okay, so would you like to try an Easter bilby? Do you think it tastes different to an Easter bunny? I think it's probably the same. So that's in Australia. And our final tradition is one of my favorites. I think this is absolutely beautiful. Does anybody have any idea what this is or where it might be? We mentioned earlier, Ellen said India. No, no. Emily said Peru. You are much closer, Emily. It's maybe they do something similar in Peru too, but this country is particularly famous for this. Correct, Isabel. It is Guatemala. Okay, so this is Guatemala is particularly famous, but maybe they do something similar in Mexico and Peru, but Guatemala is particularly famous and in a town called Antigua. It's a beautiful town, and every Easter they make these. It looks like a huge carpet. I think in French you say tapis. It looks like a huge carpet, but it's not a carpet. It is in fact made with sawdust that has been colored. So sawdust is when you cut wood with a saw. Thank you, Ellen. There is some dust. So little pieces of wood. And in Guatemala, they color them and create these beautiful artworks. I think it's fantastic. You can see here, this person is spraying water just to make sure that it doesn't blow away in the wind, just to keep it there. And they use a little bit of water. So yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So that would be, I left that one to last because that is my favorite of these Easter traditions. But there are a lot of good ones. The parade in New Orleans, the water fight in Poland. There are a lot of nice ones. So it's great to see. But we mentioned Easter eggs, Easter egg hunt. It's the classic in France, in Ireland, Canada, USA. A lot of kids go on an Easter egg hunt. In Central Europe, Germany and Austria, Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia, Poland, a lot of people decorate eggs. It's a beautiful tradition as well. So we have the verb to decorate. So there is some important vocabulary for eggs. Okay, the first is the verb to lay an egg. So when a chicken goes and produces an egg, we use the verb to lay. It's an irregular verb, lay, laid, laid. So we can say the chicken laid an egg. We have another verb related to eggs. When a baby chicken comes out of the egg, we use the verb to hatch. To hatch. It's a regular verb, hatched in the past simple. The egg hatched. Thank you, Ellen, for your compliments. A baby chicken, we call a chick. So you can see in the picture at the side, there is a chick who has hatched. Then there are different verbs for how to cook eggs. Fry on a pan with some oil. Boil in some water inside the shell. Poach is when you remove the egg from the shell and then you boil it. That's my favorite way to cook eggs. Or scramble is when you break the eggs and you mix them before frying it. Okay, so we have fry, boil, poach, scramble, make an omelette. Lots of different ways to cook eggs. Thank you, Sylvain. The egg, the hard part of the egg, is called the shell. The shell. So just like you have shellfish from the sea, the egg, the hard part is called the shell. Inside the egg, there are two parts. The white part is called the white. So you can say, I like egg whites. I like egg whites. And someone might say, I like egg yolks, the yellow part. So we have the egg white and the egg yolk. If you want to make a meringue, you need egg whites. You separate the white and the yolk. So we have the white yolks. So eggs are very important for Easter, but in my opinion, even more important than eggs are this fruit. What is this fruit? So this fruit is responsible for all the chocolate that we are going to eat. That is cacao, exactly, cacao. So you can see here I have a picture. This part, when the fruit is full, it's called a cacao pod, cacao pod. And inside you have the fruit, the white part. So in the picture, the white part inside, it's sometimes called the flesh or the fruit. You can eat this, but the most important part is inside the seed. And we call seed the cacao beans. Okay, it's not really a bean, it's a seed, but we call it cacao beans. And then with that, we can make cacao powder. Let's look at some vocabulary related to cacao. We have two words that are a little bit confusing. First, cacao, and second, cocoa. Cacao, cocoa. What's the difference? A lot of people don't know, but cacao, it's the name of the fruit. And when you buy cacao powder, or when a chocolate company talks about cacao, they are saying this is not so refined, not so processed. It's a more natural product. Cocoa is a product that is mixed. So cocoa, it's usually a mix of cacao and sugar and milk powder together. So cacao, it's a more natural product. It's really related to the fruit and the beans. So you can buy cacao or cocoa. It's not a shell. It looks a little bit like a shell, Ellen. So that's why we call it a pod. But it's not really a shell. So it's just like a fruit. It grows on a tree. And so we call the outside part the pod, rather than a shell, because it's not really hard. It's a little bit hard, but it's not really hard. So you need to cut that. And then you have the white part. We call this the flesh or the fruit. And inside you have the cacao bean. So you have the cacao tree and then the cacao bean. And then you can process this, we will see in a moment, and you can create cacao powder. Or if you add some other things, it will become cocoa. So cacao powder or sometimes cocoa powder. Cacao, it's more natural. And then we have a bar of chocolate. Be careful. Some people say things like a tablet in English. No. Okay. So tablet is medicine for when you're sick. So you have a bar of chocolate and you can ask for one square. That's a nice bar of chocolate. Can I have a square or a piece? Okay. So can I have a piece of chocolate? Can I have a square of chocolate? Okay, so you can buy a bar of chocolate, you can buy a box of chocolates, and they are individual ones, my favorite. Yes, so cacao or cocoa, exactly. The A at the end is silent, cocoa. Good. Okay, so let's look at the steps in producing chocolate. So first, the farmers harvest the cacao. They harvest the fruit. So they cut the fruit off. And I forgot to mention that don't forget where our chocolate comes from. So Most of our chocolate comes from Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire. In English, we say Ivory Coast, Madagascar, Ecuador, Peru, Mozambique, Kenya, Ghana. So a lot of those countries that have a very hot climate, but also where you can get some rain. So that's where most of the chocolate comes from. So the farmers harvest the cacao pods and then they ferment. So just like if you are making wine or beer or whiskey, you ferment the product. So you let some bacteria do their work. So after the harvest, the cacao is left to ferment for approximately 2 weeks. Then it is wiped off and it is allowed to dry. You can dry it in the sun in a hot country, or you can use machines. After it has been dried, it is roasted. So to roast, just like you roast potatoes, roast chicken, you put it in an oven at high temperature, roast coffee beans. So they also roast the cacao beans. So it's at a high temperature, and it starts to get that delicious flavor. But if you eat it at this point, it will not be sweet. What is the flavor of the cacao, the pure cacao? It's not sweet. To make it sweet, we need to add sugar. It is, in fact, quite bitter. So it's a very deep flavor, but it is bitter. So they roast it. After it has been roasted, they grind it. Okay, grind is an irregular verb. Grind, ground, ground. So just like, again, like coffee, to make it into a powder, you need to grind it. So a machine where it will crush it and turn it into a powder, that's a grinding. Then they mix. So maybe some sugar or some sweeteners, something to make it a little bit more flavorsome, a little bit sweeter. It's important because the pure cacao, it's a very strong but a very bitter flavor. So they mix it and they start to form the solid. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but basically, then package it in the beautiful packaging, and then you can eat. So that's what we will all do this weekend. I have a little bunny that I am going to enjoy on Easter. I have been waiting for it. So that's the end of my webinar. But as always, if you have anything you want to add, anything you want to say, please take the opportunity. I'm happy to answer questions or to listen to comments. I hope that you enjoyed it. And the point of this webinar also was to see how, as a language student, you can get language from anywhere. It can be a story from the Bible, it can be your favorite food, it can be a celebration, but try to absorb the story in English, do some reading, do some listening about that topic. And it will help your vocabulary, it will help your grammar. We didn't talk about grammar today, but you can see grammar in all of the sentences that we saw. For example, we saw some passive voice, we saw different things. So thank you guys for your kind comments. I'm so happy that you enjoyed it. And next week, speaking of grammar, there will be another web, and I'm really excited about this because when I teach, I don't like talking about grammar too much, but grammar is important. Some people get a little bit afraid when they hear about grammar, the G word. So next week, I'm going to be talking about the English verb and all the different ways that you can use the English verb. We're not going to talk about individual tenses. we're going to look at the verb. The reason why I want to do this is because a lot of students, they say to me things like, if I say the verb to see, they say, see, saw, seen. And okay, but what is seen? What is the past participle? And they don't know. So next week, we're going to look at when you use the past participle, when you use the ing, when you use the past simple, and it hopefully will help you a lot. So it's quite different to these. It will be a little bit more technical, but I hope that you enjoy that. Good. Thank you all for your very kind comments. It really means a lot to me to see your kind comments and to have your support for the webinars. So I really appreciate you coming. And I hope that you have a great Easter, because this feels like the start of Easter to me. So, it's really nice to share this little moment together. So thank you guys so much. Remember that my email address is there. If anybody wants to, they can send me an email anytime with any questions or comments, suggestions for future webinars. So we won't be doing a webinar every week in May because there are lots of holidays and things like that. But yes, it will be great to have future webinars. Thank you so much. It's great to get these positive comments. I really appreciate it. So now we know and we can tell our families the stories about, guess what? In Australia, sometimes they don't eat chocolate bunnies, they eat chocolate bilbies. And everyone will ask you, what's a bilby? So we have a lot of great stories to share at the Easter table. So guys, thank you again. And I hope to see you next week for our technical grammar webinar. That will also be a little bit fun. Okay, great. Take care. Happy Easter, everyone. Happy Easter. Great. Thanks, everyone. Happy Easter to all. Good night. Good night.